Hello guys, and today me and Daruk, however you pronounce that, it's a great name, we're going to be analyzing the Shortstop. The Shortstop is a primary weapon for the Scout, and unlike the normal scattergun, which has a clip size of 6, the Shortstop only actually has a clip size of 4. However, with this reduced clip size, all 4 shells are reloaded at once, and instead of one at a time like the normal scattergun. You could kind of compare it to the Force of Nature, but the Force of Nature really only has 2 shells that you reload at the same time. There is an alt fire option in this which allows you to shove a player back, but Rook's going to go over that later. When the weapon is active, there's an added 20% knockback from all damaging weapons and the Pyro's Air Blast. The damage dealt by the Shortstop varies, like most guns, by range of shot. However, as it is kind of a shotgun, it does best at point blank. The max damage dealt at point blank is 72, and at medium it's 48. But long range, the max is only like 12 or 13. However, most of the stuff you can read on the TF2 wiki, so I'm just gonna hand it over to Rook. Here you go.
Thanks, Goodbye. Now, the Shortstop has had some changes, the most significant being the addition of the alt fire and the stat changes, but it is unclear how Valve intended for the new version to be used. It's possible that they wanted scout mains to pursue their destiny, being annoying little pricks. The shove has potential. It could be used to force another player off a cliff or into an environmental damage, or it could be used to put distance between you and an enemy to make for a quick getaway. There's just one issue with this. The shove is weaker than the emotional connection I share with my father that abandoned me 16 years ago. I also ran into a few clear issues when using the alt fire on the Shortstop. The first being a logical issue. The Shortstop is a shotgun, and intended to be used in very close quarters, to get those meat shots, and it relies on these meat shots to deal the most amount of damage possible. So why the hell would you want to shove an enemy away from you, reducing the damage you deal with every shot by a potentially significant amount? This is especially dangerous when the enemy that you are fighting is using a weapon with less damage fall off than the Shortstop, as then they will potentially be dealing more damage per second than you after you shove them away. The other issue I ran into is that the shove cannot be used during the reload animation. Now this doesn't seem like that bad of a problem, but I use the auto reload, meaning that I can only use the alt fire if I right click immediately after a shot, or if I have a full clip. A few times I tried to interrupt the reload animation using the alt fire to try get away from enemies into a safer location to reload, but instead I got a huge slap to the face. Due to the Shortstop's reduced clip and full reload time, it seems that this weapon is intended to be used to deal quick and frequent bursts of damage. This is very effective when on offense, as you can quite easily pick off weaker parts of the enemy's defense, like one player standing by themselves when the rest of the team is in a specific location fending off the offense team, your team. But when I moved over onto defense, I found it a lot harder to use the Shortstop because teams on offense tend to be a lot more grouped up, focused on the objective, like the payload, therefore making it a lot harder to pick off 1 or 2 enemies at a time. And I feel like that's where the Shortstop is intended to be used. If not intended, then that's where I used it the most, and that's where I found it to be the most effective. In my opinion, the Shortstop is fun. When playing games with it to put together things to say for this video, I had a great time experimenting with the shove and even the knockback. The additional knockback from damage and air blast, I even found that to be so funny at times, just getting knocked around by the enemies, and I just think that this is such a fun weapon to use as Scout. But, that being said, I think there are a lot more viable options to use for the Scout when playing in competitive, or maybe if you hop into a pub server and you just want to try hard, get as many kills as you can. I think there are a lot more viable options. How could this happen to me? Than the Shortstop to be able to do this, because the Shortstop is more of a kind of silly weapon to use, play around a bit, have fun with friends, or just play by yourself and mess around, shoving people, bullying people, just having a good time in general. And I feel like because of this, it's not necessarily the best option to use if you want to win. But overall, I liked using the Shortstop. I will continue using the Shortstop whenever I play Scout, which is not that frequent, but I promise you guys I will, and I think you guys should try out too, because it's a fun weapon. I absolutely loved just experimenting with it. All I had to do was put together stuff to write on a script to do on WhoopPie's video, but I just loved playing with this weapon. It was so much fun. Anyway, back to you, WhoopPie.
So all in all, I'd say that it's a pretty fun weapon to experiment with, but I wouldn't use it if you were a Scout main. I'm a Soldier main, so I don't know much about the Scout, but, you know, I know enough to know that it's not the best weapon. You should probably just use a default scatter gun. However, it is fun, so you should try it out. Later, guys.